from Sunset Park. That's Bay Ridge area. If you don't know that area, Bay Ridge, Sunset Park. We're there on 5th and 50th is our house. Our church is on 7th and 44th, if you know the area. Our churches are very, very similar, both in size and in architecture of the building. When Matt and I met for the first time a couple years ago, we ate at some... I gained weight that day because we ate some greasy spoon over here. It was really good, but not good for me. He's younger than I am. He can take it better. And lately we've been eating Woodside, another greasy spoon. He must like those places. It doesn't affect him, but it hurts me a little bit more, I think. But we ate there. We came in here and looked around, and I kept thinking, this is just like our church. It looks just like our church in so many ways. We have a parsonage as well. Ours is about 7 blocks away from the church, but it's very similar to set up, and so it's great. And you have a very, it's 3, right? Very good pastor. Matt is a great guy. He's a great preacher, and you guys are privileged. So sorry you'll have to listen to me, and then my good folks get to hear him. But he is a great preacher, and I really am thankful for him. And I think you guys are privileged to have him. I really am so glad that you guys and Matt are serving the area in this area, in Woodside. Don't know the area well. I seem to know the restaurants best. And I like it. I get along. There's a question that I want to ask right up front. It's a very simple question. Everything is very simple this morning. The outline is simple, the text is very short and simple, and the question or application is very simple. It's not varied, it's not multifaceted, it's one single application with one single question to go along with it. I may word the question differently, but it's one question. And here is the question. Do you esteem, do you see, do you feel that Christ is more valuable than anything else? Yeah. See how simple that is? So let me ask the question a little bit differently then. Do you think that all that you have, and all that you possess, and all that you dream, and all that you could even think to want is less valuable than Christ is? Yes. That is the question. That's what the parable will ask and answer. That is the one question before us this morning. We will delve into this parable and ask that simple question. Is all that you have able to be given for all that He is? All that you have able to be given for all that He is? Let's read the text this morning. Matthew 13, verses 44 through 46. Very short verses, packed with meaning, and I hope they'll help us. Matthew 13, 44 through 46. The kingdom of heaven, or Christ, the gospel, the kingdom of heaven is like, what is it like? It's like treasure hidden in a field, which a man who found it. He wasn't looking for it. He's digging his hole in the ground, he's shoveling the ground, and tink, there's a little metal thing there. He found this treasure. He covered it up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has, and he buys that field that he surprisingly found a treasure in. Didn't know that. Verse 45. Again, the kingdom of heaven, or Christ, is like a merchant. He is a little different. He is searching. He's looking for a pearl, for pearls. When finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had, and he bought it. They both found a treasure, one happily, the other one searchingly. They both found a treasure, and when they both found it, they both sold all that they had to get it. Let me begin this morning with an illustration about a dinner, since we're getting over Thanksgiving. Picture with me a large feast, buzzing with activity, buzzing with conversation. Everyone is just eating and talking and having their way. Everyone is there. Lazarus is there. Lazarus has recently been raised from the dead, so he's fielding all kinds of questions. So Lazarus, tell us what it's like to be dead. Lazarus is one of the few people that can tell you a little bit about fielding questions of what it was like to be dead. Martha's there. Martha, she's worried, she's working, everyone's cup has to be full, everyone gets a little bit low, she has to fill it up, everyone's food has to be just right, she's serving, she's worried because not everyone has utensils. Martha's working. Mary, she's not. Mary's sitting there at the feet of Christ. Mary slips away. This is my imagination run wild. Mary slips away. No one knows where she goes, but no one really cares because everyone's having a good time. Then Mary comes back, and in her hand she has this alabaster bottle of perfume. Everyone says, wow, where did she get such an expensive bottle of perfume? She must have been saving. She must have sold something. Be careful, Mary. Don't fall. It's very expensive. Don't miss giving it to Christ. She comes to Christ, she kneels, and everyone's thinking, this is so great. She has this valuable bottle of perfume she's going to give to Jesus to support the mission of the church. What's Mary doing? She breaks the bottle. What is she doing? She pours it on Jesus' feet. And everyone is stunned in silence except for one person. Judas. Judas says, I can't believe it. She's wasting all of this money. Doesn't she know the value of what she's doing? There's another person who speaks, actually, and it's Christ himself. The account in John says this. Jesus said, leave her alone. Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial, for the poor you always have with you. Basically, let her worship me in her way. There's some contrast and similarities, and we'll see it all throughout the message this morning. The contrast is Judas is upset and thinks and says, what a waste. Mary, I think, is feeling and saying, I wish I even had more to give. If I had more, I would have gave it. This is all I have. All that I have for him, I would gladly do, but I wish I had more. That's a difference between them, but there's a similarity. And now you and I can enter the text. The similarity is both Judas and Mary are doing what they think will make them happy. So Judas, he'll sell his soul, and he'll sell the Son of Man for 30 pieces of silver. For that he esteems will make him happy. Mary will give all that she has. Everything she has, she'll give. Because she believes that Jesus is for joy to her soul. So again, the question must be asked. Will Jesus to you give inestimable worth that you would give all that you have for the joy of being and worshiping him? That's the question. And that's the one that a parable will answer. Our text is very simple. Our outline is very simple. First, we'll look at the parable, the ins and outs of it. Second, we'll look at the people or the personalities involved. And third, we'll look at the prize. All P's, we're good to go. Let's look at the parable. First, there is a buried treasure. You understand, I know you do, that there are no banks, no FDIC certified banks. There's no savings bonds that will not earn you any interest anymore. Those things are not around. I don't know how old you are, but maybe I'm dating myself. Do you remember the old commercial that everyone was sitting down at a fancy dining room table, and then someone would say, when E.F. Hutton speaks, and everyone would quiet down. When E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. I think if Jesus stands up and says, hey, there's a buried treasure, everyone stops talking. A buried treasure where? That's not unusual for them. That's not a weird circumstance. If you had a treasure, you buried it, you covered it, and that was your savings plan. So when they said that, they understood what a buried treasure is and meant. Everyone was paying attention. There's a buried treasure, Jesus is speaking about it. And they say, in this parable, that they find it, stumble upon it, just accidentally put a shovel in the ground. They find it, they look at it, they say, oh, carry the drachma, carry the one. Ooh, I know the value of this treasure. They cover it back up, and then they sell everything they have for joy. They sell everything they can get their hands on to buy that field for the treasure. They are smart enough to know this is simple math. Everything I have equals -1 plus my dog's toys. I got $50 worth of stuff. This is $10,000 worth of treasure. I'd gladly sell everything I got for this. It's simple math to them. A third grader, so to speak, can do it. No offense to third graders. It's simple math. Then there's another. There's a pearl of great price. Now this, you had to search for. This was not like the buried treasure. This was hard to do. Sometimes men would tie rocks, big rocks, to their ankles, and they would descend deep into the Red Sea, shark-infested waters. And they, with one breath, there was obviously no oxygen in a tank then, they would, with one breath, go down and open as many shells as they could. They passed out, and they're dead, because there's rocks tied to their feet. So at great expense, at great danger to themselves, they would open these things, and never was there a pearl. But sometimes there was a tiny little ugly pearl. But what would happen if you did that and you found a great big pearl that's gorgeous? A pearl of great price, say 1 in a million. Not a zirconian that you and I might buy cheaply at Zales. This is the real deal. When you find that kind of expensive, beautiful pearl, same thing. You sell everything you have, everything you can get your hands on, you sell, because that pearl is more valuable than everything you own. Very simple, right? Giving all that you have for all that it is. Basically, you're no dummy. The gain is worth the pain. You're no dummy. You know what? The Bible speaks that way. I'm going to show you a few verses. The Bible speaks that way throughout. I'm going to prove it to you, but when I read this verse, I bet you're going to say, I hope you say, that's exactly what he's saying. That verse perfectly articulates the parable that he's reading. So let's turn our Bibles to Philippians 3:8 for a second. I want you to see in Paul's way the exact same thing. Philippians 3:8. That you are no dummy to sell all that you have for all that it is. The gain is worth the pain. What you get in return for your quote-unquote loss is a no-brainer. Philippians 3:8, Paul says exactly the same thing. Indeed, absolutely, bet your bottom dollar, yes. Indeed, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of this treasure or this pearl. Because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. For his sake, I have suffered the loss of all things and do count them as rubbish in order to have that pearl or that buried treasure. See? Paul speaks the same way. I would give up everything for all that he is. And Paul would actually say, I have given up everything for all that he is. If it means poverty or being lonely, or as Matthew 5 says, persecuted, I give it all. I do it all for the value that he is. I said the application is very clear. Let me say it again. Do you believe what I'm saying? Do you, we're all individuals in a church, do you in your heart and soul say, I do believe that he is more valuable than anything else? You know what? And I would even say, and not just the benefits, although that would be far bigger than anything you could ever give up. But I'm saying God himself. The fact that you give up all things to have a relationship with God himself. And that is the passage we read in Philippians. All things for his sake, for the surpassing knowledge of knowing him. So not just the benefits, which far outweigh what you could ever give, my friend, but the very fact of just fellowshipping and knowing Christ. Just to know him is far better than anything you have. You're a fan of C.S. Lewis. There's a story there about Reed, the gallant mouse, the brave little mouse in the voyage of the Dawn Treader. Reed is on his little cork near the end of the world. And at the end of the world, he says, the nature of God is the little boat in which we reach the world's end in the ocean of language. There are no words. This preacher, nor even Spurgeon, could articulate to you the glory of the Father, of what God is. I'm straining to say to you the pearl of great price, or a buried treasure, or that is far surpassing in anything else. Reepicheep says, the language of English, the English language cannot hold such a term. There is God, and you and I get Him, and whatever we give up, we have made the far better deal, the far better cry, the far better understanding, because He is wholly other. He is infinitely different than we are. He is glorious. And again, words now fail us. But this is what you are exchanging for Him. Both the benefits and His person. Christian, when I ask you the question to examine yourself to see if you believe that, let me encourage you to dwell on the glory of the Father. He is so wonderful. As I mentioned briefly, though, there's a difference. One searches painstakingly, and the other just simply stumbles upon it. Hudson Taylor was the leading missionary in the China Inland Mission. He founded the China Inland Mission. He wanted to go into the innermost parts of China and evangelize for the gospel. One day, he had set up a little chapel in the innermost part of China. He rang the bell on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. and there before him stood a Buddhist scholar. Hudson, in his telling of the story, you ought to Google it, it's awesome. Hudson, in the telling of the story, says this man, this Buddhist scholar, in the middle of his sermon on John 3. So, Hudson Taylor's preaching on John 3 that Christ must be lifted up. And this man stands up right in the middle of the service. And he says, all my life I have been looking for peace and rest of my soul, as my father did and his father before him. Think of that. I have been a Hindu, a Buddhist, and a Taoist, but never have I had peace in my soul. Today I will receive your Christ. Weeks later, if I may, showing that the conversion was real, he was attending a Bible study that Hudson Taylor gave, and he asked this question: how long have you or your English fathers known of this gospel? And Taylor says, hundreds of years. And the man said, what my father and his father before him and I have searched for, why did you come so late in giving us the gospel? There is men, maybe in this crowd, who have searched for peace. Like a man would search for a valuable pearl, there are people that have longed for this peace that this world cannot afford. But there's a difference. Maybe some of us have stumbled upon the kingdom, and that is me. When I was 17 years old, I played football for my high school, and my coach came to me and said, you cannot play Friday unless you come to a Bible study. You probably couldn't get away with that nowadays, could you? I thought, and I don't know if I said it to him, but I remember thinking, you can't do that. Well, he can do what he wants. He's the coach, right? So he says, well, it's your choice. You come to the Bible study, and I'll let you play Friday, or don't come, and I won't let you play. There you go. So I was there. I came to the Bible study that morning, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and there was a preacher, his name was Steve Robinson. I was sitting there eating eggs, mad at my coach for making me go. The gospel's preached. There is a Savior. His name is Christ. He lived, He died, He was buried, He rose from the dead. I've never heard such a thing. I've never, ever been told the gospel, 17 years old. Christ opened my eyes. I was regenerated. I could see. I stumbled upon the kingdom. I never once searched for God. Never once cared about searching for God. But when my eyes were opened, I saw that He was a pearl of great price and treasure that I would have everything that I could give for Him because He had saved me. My friends, there are people that you work with, friends in your neighborhood, co-workers. Some search for peace, some do not. But you have the pearl and the treasure. And I encourage you, I exhort you to call them to account to see what they value most. Everything else, or Christ in their soul. That's what the text is saying. That's the first point. Don't worry, the short points get shorter. First point is the parable. The second, the personalities of these people, the characteristics of these people. First of all, they all recognized the value of what they had. Right? You ever see a boy and he's dating a girl and you're like, hey man, that's a gem of a girl. You keep that girl. Or, hey, that's a great job. You keep that job. What someone's trying to tell you is, hey, don't be a dummy. Recognize what you have. That's okay. That's good. That's friendship. We love people that would come to us and say, hey, think about what you're doing. That's a good school that you got in. Don't flunk your grades. Don't get kicked out. Stay the course. Thank you. These people all, like that, saw the value of what Christ is and his benefits. They agreed with David in the Old Testament in Psalm 84. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wicked. They saw it. They agreed in Psalm 19. God's laws are more precious than gold, more than pure gold. You see the comparison that the psalmist makes? This is better than this. Even this. They determined to have that thing. So they esteemed it rightly, as you might. But then we all know the guy, or we all know the girl who wants to keep that girl, or that education, or that job. But Monday Night Football is just too good, and he just cannot get up the next morning and go to work and he loses his job. It's one thing to know it, another thing to determine yourself to do it. Yes? These people, I don't know about you, but king of pragmatism here, and king of pragmatics here, I could say, listen, I know that treasure is worth more than all my stuff, but have you ever tried to sell your stuff on eBay? It's a nightmare. Or Craigslist, it never works out. Right? So I gotta sell my bed, I gotta sell my dresser, I gotta sell my house, I gotta sell all this stuff, I gotta sell even my dog. That's easy enough, right? We're having all these things. We know that it's worth less than what we're buying, but it's just a lot of trouble. That's not what these guys thought. They esteemed it more valuable, and then they actually were determined to do it. You and I don't see the text, but if we enter the narrative, it might have taken them some time to sell all that they had. But they did it. Rarely have you and I seen a godly missionary who came to you and said, you know what, we were selling our house and pulling our kids out of school to go to the mission field. It took forever, we almost stopped. No, they sold their stuff and they did their things to do what they should do for the pearl of great price. And the buried treasure. And the text here is exhorting us to do that. To do that very thing. They abandoned all and they went forth and they did it. It required a lot. Now, I was in the Navy. I was also in the Air Force. I was a chaplain in the Air Force. People sometimes ask me which one was better. I said, well, it's comparing apples and oranges. I was an officer in the Air Force, so I didn't work. I was enlisted in the Navy, and I worked very hard. So it's hard to compare apples and oranges. But the Navy, I was on a submarine. So I spent about 5 months underwater at a time. That'll do something to you. You can imagine putting 130 people in a room this size, or much shorter, smaller actually, never leaving. It's very, very difficult to get your little corner of the world and hope no one looks at you and breathes on you while you're sitting there. On my submarine, though, I was a navigator, so I was able to look through the periscope at least once a month or so and see the sun or the stars. And my other crewmen didn't even get to do that. But as a navigator, I worked very closely with the captain. And my captain was a Notre Dame grad. He was off the charts, smart. Half the things he said I didn't understand. Because either I was not as smart as he is, or he spoke something weird I didn't understand. One time we were off the coast of Russia, and he started yelling at me, get those charts, those underwater maps, get those charts to me, message to Garcia. Well, what in the world you're saying? Give you the charts, message to Garcia. So I just have to stare at him until he gives me further explanations. Basically, he says, give those charts to me right now. So I can do that. I understand that. Afterwards, when he was done yelling at me, he said, here's what message to Garcia means. When the Cuban crisis, oddly enough, since Fidel Castro just passed away, when the Cuban crisis was taking place, America was working with local nationals to overthrow Fidel Castro. And the President of the United States was trying to work with this group, this splinter group, to overthrow, but the message, the communications were broken down. Well, how to get word from our SEALs to this group in the jungle in Cuba? How to do that? They didn't know. They didn't know how. One of the commanders stood up and said, listen, if you give this message to a guy named Rowan, R-O-W-A-N, if you give this message to Rowan, somehow he'll go in that jungle. He'll get that message to them. And then he'll say, how? It's such a large place, a large piece of land. How would he do it? He said, I don't know. But if you give Rowan the message, he'll get it to Garcia. 3 days he was in the jungle. A few days later he came out and he reported, I have given the message to Garcia. I don't know how, but this one knew that Rowan, if he had set his mind to it, if he had determined to do it, that you can bank that this message would get to Garcia. This is the sense that I get from this narrative. You find a buried treasure or a pearl of great price, you determine and you push hard to get it. We're not talking about earning our way to heaven. We're not talking about salvation. We're talking about seeing the pearl. Our eyes have been opened. We see the great value of our Savior. We have new eyes to see, and in our new hearts and souls, we value and esteem Him higher than anything else. That sense, that drive, that push, that passion, like message to Garcia, like the man who finds a treasure, and like the one who finds a pearl, I will have Christ. I encourage you, my friends, have Christ. Sacrifice all that you must to know Him and to acquire Him and to fellowship with Him. It is a good deal. If you give up all that you possess for all that He is, you will win. Now, I can prove that to you. You still have your text open? Our last point is this. The prize. Verse 44, when he found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy, he went and sold all that he had and bought the field. So here's a caricature for you. Here's a misrepresentation of the Christian walk. This is a lie that the devil tells. Ready? Here it is. You should follow Jesus. You should give up all that you have for Christ. Well, I don't want to do that. I know you don't want to do that. I know that would make you very unhappy. But it's the right thing to do. Well, if it's the right thing to do, even though I don't want to do it, well, I'll do it then. I'll just have grit and discipline and I'll do it. That's a lie. For joy. When you and I see God the Father and His glorious, merciful Son Christ, for joy I give up all that I have for what He is. It's not reluctant. There's no buyer's remorse. You don't have to twist my arm. I gladly would give up, quote unquote, houses and lands and mother and father for Christ's sake and the gospel's sake. It's a lie. It's a lie that thinks that we are reluctant and sad and mad and grumpy and bitter about our sacrifices for the gospel. For joy, we give it all up for the treasure. And for joy, we give it all up for the pearl. I understand, my friends, there's times at 5 in the morning when you must get up and do something that you may not be happy. But that's not the Christian life. This is the image that we show. This is the picture that we have. Let me give it to you in a very simple way. You find a girl. She's the one. She's prettier than all others. She's nicer than all others. You like her a lot. You want to marry her, so you talk to her a little about it. And she says, you got to talk to my dad. Okay, I can do that. It's Thanksgiving time. It's the holidays. I can go talk to your dad. I can do that. So you sit down with your hopefully soon-to-be father-in-law, and he says, you want to marry my daughter, huh? Yes, sir. Well, you can marry her if you love her above all others. Well, I do. You mean that I can have your daughter's hand in marriage. I can marry her if I love her more than anyone else? Yes. Deal. Done. Glad. Yes. Yes. Jesus is saying the same thing. You can have the pearl of great price. You can have me and the joy and the pleasures that I give to my children. But you must esteem me highly, more highly than anything else. I must be to you more valuable and precious and beautiful than anything. And I say to that, yes, you are, and I esteem you so. I gladly for joy give up all that I have for all that you are. This is the idea that you and I see. It is a great sacrifice of all dreams, desires, and possessions, but it is one done joyfully because of the prize of the bride or the girl or the pearl or the treasure that we get in return. Esteem it as such, is what the text is saying. The Olympics had soon passed, and I was super interested in a few athletes, mostly Michael Phelps. I thought he could literally fly out of the water with his long arms. He was so big. Second, his suction cup body was pretty cool. But the quantity of medals that guy won, pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I wanted to hear some interviews from him since he was retiring, but while I was watching NBC in the Olympics, I wanted to hear interviews from others because, honestly, I've been reading in Matthew, thinking about this theme, and I thought, I'm curious what they feel now that it's over, especially Phelps. Here is a few of the words by Simon Biles, Missy Phelps, and Michael Phelps. No relation. We'll start with Missy. Here's what she said. The question was posed something like, you gave up so much. That was the question. Here's what she said. A huge part of swimming for me is, I simply love it. And it is so much fun. Is that what you thought she would have said? That's not what I thought she would say. I thought she would say, listen, my mom got me this early on. I put so many years of time into service. I figured I'm in it for a penny. I should go in and put it for a pound. I love it. It's so much fun. She continues, I don't regret it for 1 second. Well, that's pretty good. It just gets better. Simon Biles, very funny word. Quote, yes, I was missing out on a lot. I missed out on school. I missed out on going to football games, my prom, my homecoming. Listen to this lady. Quote, but I got the better deal. I don't regret it at all. That's amazing. I mean, am I missing something, or is it just a medal this size? Yeah, and all the glory that goes with it, right? But still, your whole life. We're getting to the point here. Hold on. Last, Michael Phelps, the most touching, because he was going to retire and it was done. Do you think at the end of his life, looking back, his whole life was given to this task, now it's over? What is your estimation of it all? Quote, I didn't want to look back and say, I regret all that I've given up my whole life, every morning, every afternoon, every evening to swim. But now as I look back, I don't regret it at all. Now, I think you and I, just as people who love someone who could discipline their bodies in such a way to win these medals, I think you and I say, that's pretty cool. But That's not what I'm referring to. If you think that's the comparisons I'm making, I have failed. Here is the comparison that I'm making. And we're going to turn our Bibles to our last verse. 1 Corinthians 9. We'll read it and be done. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 25. It's pretty good, Michael Phelps, Simon Biles, Missy Phelps. It's pretty good. I'm not sure I would agree that all my life for that gold medal is worth it, but maybe. 51-49, 60-40, I don't know. Here's Paul. Here's Paul's estimation, though. 1 Corinthians 9, verse 25. Everyone who competes in the games, the very Olympics, by the way, everyone who competes in those games goes into strict training. No telling Michael Phelps that. He knows it. But they do it to get a crown that will not last. We do it to get a crown that will last forever. They say not at all. And I say, even your crown will perish and fade, and we will not know his name in a decade. You and I do it for a crown and a glory that will last forever. You would be wise, my friend, to give all that you have for all that he is. You would be wise to give everything you have, your dreams, ambitions, and loves, for the joy that Christ will give you by knowing him and serving and fellowshipping with him. And I would say it this way, as vernacular as I can. It's not even difficult. It's a no-brainer. Because what you will receive is of infinite value in what you give up. Friend, I asked the question I started with. Do you esteem, do you feel that Christ is more valuable than anything else? Will you give up all that you have for all that he is? I hope you will. Not to earn our place with God. This is the believer I'm referring to. But in your salvation, will you be a follower, learner, disciple of Christ? Let's pray. Father, thank you. You're so kind to us. You're kind in your word to highlight and to show us and to cause us to realize that our cars and jobs, even our things that are not vying hard for our heart's attention, those things cannot compete with the joy of God, the joy of being known by you. We thank you for Mary, who esteemed you more valuable than anything she had, and was willing to worship you with everything she is. It's in your name we pray.